What's up you guys, it's Caboose bringing you another Spider-Man PS4 video, and today what I got for you guys is another massive news roundup detailing a bunch of information about Spider-Man PS4 coming from Game Informer's official article on the game. Now before we jump into this, I wanted to ask you guys, of course, if you could leave a like rating on the video as it shows your support, and I would really appreciate it. So if you could leave a like, that would be awesome. With that said, well, let's just jump right into this. So, the very first story mission in Spider-Man PS4 has been detailed in this Game Informer article. And of course, if you're somebody who maybe doesn't want to know too much about that, then you might want to skip ahead a little bit further to the video. I am going to be talking about some other topics in this video, some stuff about DLC and some confirmations about one of the DLC characters you're going to be interacting with, as well as some villains that we might end up seeing in this game. And this is, again, all coming from the Game Informer article that was just recently released. So, without further ado, let's get into it and let's break down and talk about the very first story mission in Spider-Man PS4. The game opens with a shot of a spider, and it's coming down a spider web as it's explained here, and then we slowly start to pan out and get a little idea of Peter's life as he is currently in this game. We get small little glimpses and tidbits of his life, where he's been before the events leading up to this game and how he has gotten to the point that he is. We see pictures of him with Uncle Ben and Aunt May. We see pictures of him when he was younger with Harry Osborn, and as it's said here in this article, ex-girlfriend Mary Jane Watson. And then we also see some old newspaper articles that he has framed, which he has defeated in these newspaper articles: Electro, Scorpion, Rhino, and the Vulture. And you can actually see the names and faces of these characters on these newspaper articles. We then start to pull back and start to see how cluttered and untidy his apartment is. They mention here that there probably isn't an ounce of living space because he's just piled up so much stuff. Now he's getting ready to suit up as he hears his police scanner going off, and he starts to hear police sirens roaring in the background. But right before he leaves his apartment, he sees an eviction notice under his door, and he starts to hesitate on whether or not to do something about it. But with those police sirens roaring in the background, he makes his way out and does his duty as Spider-Man. Now, what's really interesting about all this is it's mentioned that throughout the entirety of this very first mission, which you inevitably culminate to facing off against the Kingpin, you actually play as Spidey in his classic Spider-Man suit. That is awesome to hear. It looks like we got a small, tiny blink and you'll miss it glimpse of this during the gameplay coverage trailer that Game Informer had put out a few days ago. There was a moment which you see Spidey slamming a thug to the ground, and it looks like he is wearing a different suit, which now I am assuming is that classic suit that you will be wearing at the beginning of this game. You were then seamlessly transitioned from cutscene right into gameplay as the game starts to give you a bit of a tutorial on how to swing in the game and traverse through the city. You then see some police cars, which gives you a destination to follow, which takes you to an intersection where some gunmen, presumably working for Fisk and trying to buy him time, are fighting off against the police. One of them calls in on a radio to bring in the hammer, and a truck comes rolling through like a battering ram, taking out a bunch of police cars, and in the process of the confusion, the gunmen are ready to open fire. Right before they're able to do so, though, Spidey scoops up each and every one of their guns, and a combat tutorial begins from here, in which you get to fight off these thugs and learn a little bit about how the combat works in the game. Now, it's not so much of a teaching you how to fight because of the fact that Spidey in this game is a seasoned veteran up until this point. So they really let you learn what a punch is and a kick is and how to integrate some gadgets or work with the environment to attack your opponents, and then let you go from there. Now, after you take down all these thugs, you have a brief conversation with Yuri, who we have seen that Spidey is working with through the entirety of this game. You then make your way to Fisk Towers, using one of the thugs as a battering ram to get through the window of the lobby. Now, the power goes out, and you immediately have to make your way up an elevator shaft, which you are able to do, obviously, with Spidey's wall-crawling ability, but then you are blocked again when you reach a higher floor. You have to click the right thumbstick to survey an area, which acts essentially as the detective vision from the Arkham games, And with this, you see a vent that Spidey can crawl through. Now, while he's crawling through this vent, he actually gets a call from Aunt May, who's trying to figure out where he is. And while Spidey is trying to stall and explain to Aunt May where he is, he says that he's watching superhero movies as a cover for all the noise that's going on in the background. He quickly hangs up and makes his way through the vent, in which he is immediately informed by Yuri that Fisk is trying to erase all the files and all the dirt against him, so Spidey has to find a computer and back up all that data on a USB immediately. While trying to retrieve this data on the USB stick, you are then faced with more of Kingpin's men that you have to take down. While they seemingly give you a run for your money, because of the fact that you're Spider-Man, you take them down. After beating all the thugs, you make your way back to the computer, in which you are faced with Kingpin himself appearing on the screen. It is at this point that the demo that the Game Informer employees were playing had come to an end. So that is a good chunk of the very first story mission in Spider-Man PS4, and oh man, does it sound cinematic as hell. Everything sounds awesome. What I'm so happy about and excited about is the fact that there is those seamless transitions between cutscene to gameplay back to cutscene. It was something that I loved and adored so much about Arkham Knight, and what makes me really excited about that is using alternate costumes, because it means we're going to get to see some of those in those cutscenes, and oh man, it's going to look freaking amazing. They also mentioned that they got to play a mission where they were facing off against the Shocker. Now, we know that he is a confirmed villain in this game, and from the sounds of it, it looks like he is only going to be a part of a side quest, but we'll have to wait and see what happens when we get our hands on the game. But the way that it's written here, it sounds like he is in a side quest where he is robbing a bank and you have to stop him. And we also got a brand new screenshot of the villain here, and oh man, does he look awesome. The small little glimpse that we got of him was really blurry, and it was super blink and you'll miss it, so it was very hard to get a decent look at the character. But with this HD screenshot, you can see that Insomniac went for quite a bit of a modern design for the character, while still keeping the tropes of the Shocker that you'd see in the comic books. You know, he still has that yellow and red or yellow and maroon color scheme. You know, he has that same pattern design on his suit. So I'm really glad that they went with that kind of sort of classic but modern twist sort of look with Shocker, and I'm very excited to see what we're going to be doing facing off against this dude in the game. Now, we also got confirmation that Taskmaster is actually in this game as part of more side missions, one in which you are specifically trying to find 3 bombs that he placed around the city, in which you have to find them, throw them up into the air, web them up as much as possible, and then detain an explosion that could be catastrophic. I think this is super exciting, and I'm wondering if maybe this all kind of culminates to a one-on-one fight with Taskmaster. That would be so awesome. But it does look like one of the side activities that you can do within the open world of Spider-Man PS4 is these little challenges set by none other than the Taskmaster himself. Now, last up for this news roundup, we got the DLC for Spider-Man PS4 and some details about it based on this Game Informer article. Now, as mentioned previously, this is going to be called the City Never Sleeps Initiative, in which we're going to be getting new chapters and new characters to interact with, as well as new alternate suits for Spidey to wear. Now, while we don't get a ton of details on all that stuff, we do get information here that the very first piece of DLC is going to be called The Heist, and will be focusing on Black Cat set in a museum. Now, I feel like we're treading old ground here, and we've seen this before, but that doesn't upset me too much. I'm still very excited to see what Insomniac's take is going to be on this, and what the design will be like for Black Cat, as well as what the dialogue will be like between Spidey and Black Cat, because whenever they run into each other, it's always some good comedy and good lighthearted moments. So I'm excited to see how they're going to work around this, and I'm wondering too, considering we get to play as Mary Jane in the base game, if we'll be able to play as Black Cat during this DLC, and I think that would be pretty sweet. But to run it from the top, in the confirmed villains that we have in Spider-Man PS4, the ones that you are certainly going to be facing off against 100% without a doubt are Kingpin, Mr. Negative, and the Shocker. That is for sure. We also see the appearance, or the reveal, I guess you could say, of villains like Electro, Scorpion, Rhino, and Vulture, as they are on some newspapers that Peter has put up in his apartment. Now, whether or not we're going to see us face off against those villains in the game is yet to be seen, but I'm assuming, considering we get to actually see the villains on the newspaper and see what their designs are, that means that there is an intent there for Insomniac to use those characters as either side activities or main story missions when you play this game. We also know that Norman Osborn is in Spider-Man PS4. He is currently New York City's mayor, and he is running for a re-election. There is a photo of Norman Osborn, and it looks like it's from a cutscene in which you're going to be interacting with the character. So I guess it's going to be up in the air about whether or not he is a villain and whether or not he's actually the Green Goblin. I do remember in previous articles that Insomniac has sort of hinted that Mr. Negative may not be the main villain of this game, so they might be saving that sort of information for something like Green Goblin being revealed as the main villain, or maybe even something crazy like Venom being revealed as the villain, and that might have some sort of ties to the white spider on Spider-Man's new suit, which was designed by Insomniac Games and is said to have some significant importance to the story mode of this game. But that's it. Another massive news roundup is done. I now kick it to you guys. What do you think about all this? What do you think about the first story mission in Spider-Man PS4, the DLC information that we got, and then of course the confirmed villains that we have so far for this game? I want to hear everything that you guys have to say in the comment section below. There is still so much news to cover based on this Game Informer article. I'm telling you, it is freaking massive. So a lot more to talk about. Stay tuned to the channel. There's just so much to cover, guys. There's so much Spider-Man news. We've been hungry and waiting for so long, and they didn't just give us a tiny little update. They gave us a massive update through this Game Informer article. So, yeah, stay tuned to the channel. A lot more to come. But I kick it to you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on all this. I'm Caboose, and once again, if you can leave a like rating on the video, it shows your support, and I would really appreciate it. And you can click on screen to make your way to one of the other videos on the channel, or you can click my logo to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a comment if you have an opinion, and subscribe if you're new. See you guys later.